Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Afternoon Tune. I am your host, Josh, and with me are my two co-hosts here.
Hello, it's Nick.
Oh,
Hey,
damn.
Dust.
Okay, loud as fuck there. All right.
Jeez, man.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, oh, you excited today, huh? Okay, Doom must be your shit, huh? Jesus, really
No,
excited today.
no, I'm just overcompensating.
Oh, okay, yeah. Uh,
Exhaustion has hit him.
yeah, so we're going to be discussing Dune. There really wasn't really much out, so we're going to be doing that. Going to be doing a review of Dune. Also, the Uncharted trailer that dropped. So get to see Tom Holland, get to see a 15-year-old looking Nathan Drake running around, solving adventures, things like that. So we're going to be discussing that. I'm a huge fan of the games. Has anybody ever played the games?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I played a little bit of the first three games.
Okay.
I played them all. Aside from the side one with Chloe and the villain from the fourth one,
Nadine was it, right?
Nadine. Right.
Yeah, yeah. I played that one a little bit. I didn't beat it. That was kind of like how Miles Morales, Spider Man. It was kind of like that, like a nice. It was like a little extended DLC type thing for the Uncharted series. It was kind of like that. I did enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy the mechanics of Uncharted. But we'll get into that. Get into everything with that and Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland being in it, and finally, you actually know it's actually going to come out. They got a trailer for it. They've been trying to do this movie for what, like almost 10 years now, 8 years.
They initially announced it, I think, back in 2012, and David O. Russell was gonna be the director on it, with Marky Mark as Nathan Drake.
Yeah. So it's been so long now that Mark Wahlberg has become the Sully character. That's how long it's been. He was gonna be Nathan Drake, and then he aged it up, and then I guess he became Sully. That's pretty much
Nah,
it.
not my Sully.
Oh my God, yeah.
Well, since we already talked about, we might as well just talk about the trailer since we already discussed it. Anyway. Since we already talking about it, so here we have the story of Nathan Drake, explorer, basically your Indiana Jones type of figure. What was Brandon Fraser's name in The Mummy? Anybody remember?
Something Conaway.
Okay.
I don't know. All I remember it ended with a way. I don't know.
Okay. So your adventure figure.
Rick O'Connell from The Mummy.
Rick
Excuse me.
O'Connell.
Wow, I was way off.
Yeah. So you have here, so it shows that story, and this is based off of the popular video game series by Sony, the Uncharted. As I said previously, I played all the games, 1 through 4, even the side mission game. I forgot the title they had for that side mission game that they had.
Lost Legacy, I think, was the name of that title.
Okay. So I am a big fan of the series. I do like what they do. I think that the voice actor who voices Nathan Drake, his name is Nolan North, who's a big time voice actor in the video game community. Does a great Nathan.
Yeah, if you've played a video game ever, you've probably heard his voice, or you've heard him voice acting. I know he does the voice for Superboy on Young Justice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's very very big. Yeah, very very big prominent voice actor there. So I really like. It's one of the games I really love to play also because the writing I think is pretty solid. I think it's a fun. It reminds you of that kind of Indiana Jones fun adventure type writing.
Until we get to 4, I would agree with you.
Okay. And so I think that I think it's out of all the video games you could ever do a movie adaptation of, this one makes the most sense because
Yeah, in all honesty, it's ground to earth enough you can do it.
yeah, it's the most kind of simplest kind of story. Like I said, it's Indiana Jones. I mean, it's another type of figure like that. And so out of all the video game kind of stories you could do, this seems like the easiest to translate over into kind of the movie realm. So you just go around, get general thoughts on the trailer, the casting. What were kind of you guys' thoughts here?
Again, hashtag not my Sully. Mark Wahlberg, I think, one, he's an okay actor at best, and two, I just don't think he has the kind of like charisma and sass that's needed to pull off a character like Sully. I think Bruce Campbell, he basically played Sully on Burn Notice for like years and years and years, and I think he would have been perfect for this.
I agree. I very much agree. Dusk, what about you?
Uh, I agree wholeheartedly. I think he was a. I think the whole movie has been miscast. If I'm going to be completely honest, with Mark Wahlberg, he's a fine enough actor, but he doesn't have this kind of grizzled. I've been kind of doing this for a while, kid style. He doesn't really have that in his repertoire, at least in what I've seen in it. And Tom Holland, if I'm going to be honest, if you want to keep those two actors, this would have been great about 5 years ago, and we could have had the Adventures of Tintin in live action.
You would make a good.
I mean,
Tintin,
in all honesty, I think Tom Holland would have actually made a good Tintin if you're going to do a live action movie. But Nathan Drake, I don't think he's too young. He doesn't have that aspect. I could believe him as possibly a teenage Drake.
right?
As he's in his teens, he hasn't grown up yet. It's like the initial adventures of them. But from what I've seen from the trailer, it's every set piece from all four movies crammed into one movie.
Yeah, it's you bring that up. So, like one of the biggest ones. So, if you've played the games, like I'm gonna show it in the trailer here, put it on stream. So, if you play the game, so the scene at the kind of towards the end of the trailer, like there's a scene where he's on a plane and then he's falling out the plane and then he's like his foot's attached to like one of the cargo on the plane. And he's like falling off. That's a big set piece in the video game. That was in the third one, I believe, if I'm not.
It is. You're correct.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a big set piece in the third one. And so like you said, they're trying to bring in all the elements from kind of the game. And it seems kind of like one of those things also that you see in movies if you go through the trailer also, like it will introduce you to the bigger elements of Nathan Drake. So, like, for instance, they'll do this a lot in prequels and stuff like that. Like, they'll introduce you, this is how this character got this famous thing, and this is how this character got this, and his iconic imagery. So, like, you see him when he dons, like, the holster, where he has the, like, Nathan Drake's iconic look is, like, he's got the brown shirt and holster. Like, that's kind of, like, his iconic look. I'm trying to show it in the trailer there, but that's kind of Nathan Drake's iconic kind of look there. So there, and then also you see Sully, Mark Wahlberg here, he doesn't have a mustache. So eventually, probably at the end of the movie, he's going to grow a mustache. Like, that's going to be the big thing. This is the scene right here. He dons the holster and everything like that. That's the scene. But, so you'll see it, what I mean? Stuff like that where they'll get their iconic kind of images and stuff like that. The casting of Tom Holland here, I mean, obviously he has a curse and a blessing because he's 25 years old, but he still looks like he could still play 16, 17-year-olds. That's great, because it's part of the reason why he makes a great Spider-Man because he looks so young, and that's awesome. But then also when he's trying to do more adult roles and trying to grow up and trying to, like, for instance, that movie Cherry he was in, it can be kind of a detriment because it's like, you just that little teenage boy, you just a little high schooler, the little 15-year-old, you know what I mean? Like, what you know about doing some drugs, So it can be a little detriment and a little bit of a problem there, having that. Jamie Bell also kind of suffered for that in his career. Haley Joel Osment also did as well. Haley Joel Osment still has that baby face. He's still got the cheeks and everything like that.
Yeah, the man grew a full beard, and he still looks baby faced as hell.
Yeah, I mean, he just got one of those faces. So it can be kind of a thing. And like you said, I think that Bruce Campbell should have been definitely Sully. I mean, he, as a person who watched Burn Notice, and if you've never seen Burn Notice, I highly recommend you check it out. It's a show with Jeffrey Donovan in it. Jeffrey Donovan's a great character actor. I see him in a lot of stuff. He was in Fargo season 2. He was in the movie with Angelina Jolie called Changeling. So he's been in a lot of different places, actor. Bruce Campbell was basically playing that Sully character. Every time I watch that show, after playing those games, I go like, this is Sully. This is who he should be. It's perfect. Everything about him. Now, in terms of Nathan Drake, did anybody here see that fan film that came out with Nathan Fillion? Yep. Did anybody?
Yeah.
Great.
The fan film was fucking fantastic, and I think 10 years ago you probably could have gotten Nathan Fillion to play Drake.
Yeah, he could have been easily just like, all right, he's at the age appropriate of where Nathan would have been, probably mid-30s at that point. I would buy it. Now he's in his mid-30s. That's fine.
Yeah. So I watched that short, little kind of fan film that they did. Watching it, obviously Nathan Fillion is how old is he now? Like in his 50s?
I think he's like in his early 50s now.
Yeah, he's 50 years old now. And watching the fan film, I'm like, clearly this is a guy that looks up there. And they made this in 2018, so just like a few years ago. So he was 47 at the time. So clearly I was like, yeah, this looks like a guy who's up there in age. Maybe 10 more years ago, maybe this would have been, yeah, you may would have cast Nathan Fillion. And Nathan Fillion is that guy that's kind of like Ryan Reynolds, where it's like maybe he needed a role like this to come along. Like Ryan Reynolds had Deadpool, where Ryan Reynolds' career was kind of, he was doing bad thing after bad thing, and Deadpool really helped him kind of, just kind of get more comfortable and do more stuff. Because like Ryan Reynolds was doing kind of stuff like R.I.P.D. with Jeff Bridges, and yeah, like he was doing a lot of bad stuff. So Nathan Fillion, he was always that beloved kind of nerd icon because he was in Firefly and he was in other Whedon projects, things like that. And so, I think, yeah, maybe 10 years ago, you maybe would have gotten Nathan Fillion to come and do this. Who else would have been, you all think would have been good to cast as Nathan Drake here?
I don't know. I feel like with Nathan Drake, you got to do... someone, Yokozu, not Teddy-san. The best casting decision that they got the Scottish dude from the Samurai Jack to be in the movie.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, which is actually a beat in the trailer that made me laugh. But I think Nathan Drake, he's kind of a character that you can basically get any kind of charming, charismatic everyman to play him. Basically just pick like a male lead with like someone like Oscar Isaac would have been perfect for this role.
Oscar Isaac, that's a pretty good choice. Dusk, what about you? What are you kind of thinking?
I think the way Drake is written in the first 3 games, even parts of 4, what makes him a compelling character, or what makes you okay with the fact that there's a dissonance between the gameplay and the narrative. What makes you tolerate him is that he's a charismatic dude, but he's ultimately earnest. He's earnest in his attempts, and you have to have that last piece. Because without that, there's no different from him in every other thief that he comes across.
Yeah.
So you had even regardless of the charm that the person also has to sell being awkwardly earnest because he doesn't know what else to kind of do. Like, oh, I'm playing the charmer because I'm not good at the other part.
Okay. I was looking up here, so some suggestions that other sites have made who could be Nathan Drake. I see Chris Pratt. I don't know. I think if you cast Chris Pratt, people will think he's just doing Star-Lord again.
Or they'll be wondering why Nathan Drake is running a conversion camp.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, I think Chris Pratt. I think people think Star-Lord too much. Zachary Levi. Maybe I
could see it.
I could maybe see that. Charlie Cox. I think that's a little bit of a kind of a solid choice. Charlie Cox. I think that'd be good for him. Maybe get him more in the eyes of people. After playing Daredevil, something like that. I see Scott Eastwood. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of Scott Eastwood. I don't know.
You need somebody that can act.
Yeah, I think you need somebody with a little bit more better personality. Bradley Cooper. That could work. I think I could see Bradley Cooper.
I wouldn't be mad at that casting.
Bradley Cooper. Somebody mentioned Oscar Isaac here. Chris Pine. I think Chris Pine would probably be the best choice. Chris Pine, I think, fits Nathan Drake probably better. I think that'd probably be a great choice. I also see Toby Kebbel. Toby Kebbel, he was in Fan Four Stick, but he also played Cuba in the Rise of the Planet of the Apes movies, the trilogy there. The first.
Oh shit! Look at that guy.
Yeah, so he was also in King Kong, Skull Island. He was also in that. He likes I don't know. I mean, unless he's gonna be palling around with an ape or a monkey, I don't know. I don't really think I don't think it works for him all that well. Also
Oh,
see,
he was also in Black Mirror in that short entire history review, the one where they had like the memory thing in their eyes.
oh yeah, I do remember him in that. Yeah, he was also in that. Jason Eccles. Jason Eccles, I think, would also have been a wonderful choice. Him and Chris Pine. I think those are two would be. I love Jason Eccles. Love him on Supernatural. You know what I mean. But I couldn't stick with that show. For that show lasted like almost like half of The Simpsons. That shit kept going and going. I'm like, okay, bro, y'all gotta stop hunting these fucking demons. Okay, y'all gotta stop this shit now. All right, I'm kind of
Yeah, it's like you already stopped the apocalypse. It's like, where do you go from here?
yeah. I was just like, okay, But they did keep it kind of interesting throughout the later seasons. But after the creator of the
Yeah,
show, what was
yeah.
his name?
After
Yeah,
Eric Kripke, who would go on to create and showrun The Boys.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So they did kind of keep it somewhat interesting a little bit. I've watched a little bit past the initial kind of final run of Eric Kripke with season 5, but yeah. Who Jason Ackles also he's going to show up in The Boys, so can't wait to see him there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yuki said that Jason Eccles is probably the best choice. I said, yeah, I think Jason Eccles. I like him a lot, and I think he deserves a lot more. Somebody said Dan Stevens also here. Dan Stevens, people know he was in Legion. He's the main character there. He was also in the movie The Guest, which is on Netflix.
Which is fantastic, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know about Dan Stevens per se. I don't know. I don't know if I buy him as maybe Nathan Drake's brother. I'd buy him more as not really Nathan Drake, but let's see. I also see Britt Dalton. I don't really know who he is per se.
Oh, he was the guy on Agents of Shield.
Oh, he was the guy that was like kind of like one of the main guys, but the guy who went.
Yeah, he was like the main guy on Agents of Shield. The guy who was always like, the will they, won't they of if he's a bad guy or not.
Oh, that guy. Okay, him. I don't know. I mean, he's kind of plain, I guess, a little bit to me. Also, Robbie Amell, who was in The Flash. He was Firestorm. He was the first Firestorm before they brought the new Firestorm in. The new guy in, but him as well. He was also in that movie Duffy, the Duff or Duffy, something like that. Also as well. What's the new thing he's in right now, Robbie Amell?
He's also in the Babysitter movies as probably the best parts of those, and he's also in this Amazon show Upload, which I think has the same showrunner as The Good Place, Michael Schur, and he's wonderful in that.
Oh, okay, yeah. So him, I guess I could sort of see him as well. That could kind of work. Yukio said the Mel
brothers can't act.
Okay, I didn't know he had a brother. I didn't know who's his.
They're cousins because Stephen Amell is his cousin,
Oh,
and he was on Arrow forever. And yeah, his new show on Stars, I think, Heels. That Amell is a star and I think a co-producer on. He's fucking incredible in that.
Oh, really? Okay, that's that wrestling show, right?
Yeah, that wrestling show.
Yeah. Yeah, the wrestling show, yeah. Dusk, what do you kind of think about those kind of names right there? Any names kind of particularly jump out to you at all?
I mean, at the end of the day, as long as they can act as the character Nathan, I'm in support of pretty much anybody that can do the job.
Yeah.
It's just I think at this point, I think they just all the casting was kind of miscast.
Yeah.
The only one I approved of as being a villain, although I don't know his role, is
Antonio Banderas.
Antonio Banderas. Just because it's nice seeing him again, and if he's the bad guy from the first one as the rich aristocrat, I'm like, okay, yeah, I could buy that. He's not British, but if they just combine their roles into one character, that's fine.
I feel like
I can accept that.
Antonio Banderas has been playing a lot of villains lately. Like he's the villain in this.
Hey man, renaissance of his character.
He was the villain in Hitman's wife's cousin, niece, sister-in-law, bodyguard.
Brothers, fathers, uncles, sisters, cousins, former roommates, bodyguard.
Yeah, so he was the villain in that. I mean, he wasn't good in that. I mean, that movie wasn't all that good, but
yeah, that movie was pretty mad.
yeah, and wasn't he also the villain in that Under the Skin as well? or The Skin I Live In. That was a great movie,
I
by the way.
don't know.
I forgot the name of that movie he was in, but it was a great
Oh,
film.
yeah, The Skin I Live In. Under the Skin is the Scarlett Johansson alien movie.
Ah, yes. So The Skin I Live In. He was great in that. The Skin I Live In. That's a fantastic film.
That's an underrated movie.
Yeah. You also have Tati Gabriella, who we just saw in You as well. So she's great. I'd like to see her in more stuff. She's awesome. What do you all think about this woman named Sophie Ali as the Chloe, who's the main love interest from the Uncharted series?
My memory is kind of like iffy on the games, and you don't see enough of this actress playing this role in the trailer, so can't really say.
Okay. Uh, yeah, she's done things like Grey's Anatomy. She was in Truth or Dare, which I'm sorry about that.
Ugh.
Yeah,
Ugh.
yeah, she was in that. But yeah, I don't really see that much of her in the trailer to really get
Okay.
a sense.
Wait, you said Truth or Dare? Oh, yeah, this shit's fucked. It's dead on arrival.
And who's directing this Uncharted movie? Let me see here.
Oh, it's
Fleischer.
Ruben Fleischer, who we all know from the first Zombieland, which yeah, I think that was kind of this guy's one-hit wonder, because everything else he's done is kind of like either very mid. He did 30 Minutes or Less with Jesse Eisenberg and Aziz Ansari. He did a Gangster Squad. He did a couple episodes of Santa Clarita Diet, which I actually really love that show. He did the first Venom and Zombieland Double Tap.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So everything after that is So Zombieland was kind of like for now, is kind of one hit.
One hit wonder.
Yeah. Yeah. So, is this gonna break the streak of finally having great video game movies, and we're gonna see that?
Probably not.
After watching this trailer, I tell you, I don't really think so. It doesn't really give me much confidence, all that much. I mean, it has nothing really to do with Tom. I like Tom Holland. I like Mark Wahlberg. For the most part, Mark Wahlberg, he's great at playing the guy from Boston. If they make Sully like his backstory, like he's the guy from Boston and he's like a Boston cop, then
he's a guy from Boston. May or may not have committed a hate crime against an Asian dude.
Yeah, if they make it something like that, then yeah, I mean it's great. And the adventure of the movie, it doesn't really necessarily, like these adventure movies, it doesn't really matter what your plot is as long as you have fun and, the characters are good and they interact well with each other. The whole premise of people trying to find treasure and all that other stuff, like that doesn't really matter all that much. You don't have to come up with some compelling goal for them to get. It's just like, hey, listen, you like to see these characters and have fun and, witty banter, everything like that. So that's really what is the key when you're doing adventure movies. That's really the key here. So yeah, and then you see some parkour and stuff. So Tom Holland gets to use those Spidey skills, jumping off shit. Gets to use that and here as well. So yeah. So that's kind of what we think about the Uncharted trailer there. Yeah. All right. So moving on from discussing that, we're going to be discussing the main event here. And it's a long, beefy movie, that's for sure. We're going to be discussing Dune. Dune.
Yeah, all you motherfuckers crying cinema. Here we go.
Here we go with Dune. And this is an adaptation. It's based on a 1965 science fiction novel written by Frank Herbert. They did a movie adaptation of it in 1984, which was directed by David Lynch. Here you have Denis Villeneuve, who is coming and doing it in 2021. In this cast, you have Timothée Chalamet, as well as Zendaya, who I'm just going to tell you right now, if you really come in here, you saw Zendaya and,
she's in it. She's like, I counted it, 32 minutes of screen time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
30 of those minutes are her just looking in the camera and giving us that smolder. And 2 minutes, she's actually given any kind of dialogue.
Yeah. So
in a 2 hour and 35-minute movie, literally a third of it is Zendaya.
Yeah, it's pretty much just her that. I mean, it's like basically it's like she's in like a eyelash commercial, like a makeup commercial. Because
Spice.
yeah,
Spice from Coco Chanel.
yeah, she's basically look like she's selling lady deodorant. I mean, basically that's kind of what it is. Because the times you see her, because
She's basically in a fucking Chanel commercial
yeah,
for like her entire screen time here.
like or like what was that? What's that other brand? A Revel or what's that brand name?
Ravel.
Yeah, so it's basically it's kind of just like that, because Timothy Chalamet's character Paul, and so he dreams of this woman, and it's funny because Dune is basically it was Star Wars before Star Wars. This is like one of the OG science fiction elements, and when you actually watch this movie, you will see similar elements to Star Wars in it as well, and other big sci-fi franchises. The whole thing they have what they call the voice. The voice is essentially it's basically like the force. It's what I mean. It's this powerful thing that these people can use to command other people, and it's like that's like what people can do with the force. Basically, and you'll kind of see elements even like in the outfits that some of the characters wear, like in their like aviation outfits or like one of the outfits they're wearing. It looks very similar in design to like the rebel outfit. You know what I mean? And like Star Wars, like people wearing that. But the premise of this is so it follows Timothy Chalamet, who is the heir to this kind of entrusted family here, who's going to take over this planet. And this planet is known for its resource, which is called the spice. So everybody kind of in this series, in this book, the spice is this very valuable resource. It's like incredibly special. It can they say in the movie it can extend your life. It can give you these amazing properties. You know what I mean? It's this incredibly valuable resource, and this planet of Arrakis has it. It has Arrakis. I'm sorry, Arrakis, and has untold kind of amount of it available. So he kind of with his family going there, protecting this planet, kind of overseeing it in order to help mine the spice. So, help also rounding out the cast here. You have Oscar Isaac, who plays Timothy Chalamet's father in it. He's the Duke Leto Atreides. You also have Rebecca Ferguson, who's the mother here. You also have Jason Momoa. You also have Stellan Skarsgård, who's kind of the villain of this film. You also have Josh Brolin in here. Josh Brolin is kind of like the trainer or taskmaster for the family that Timothy Chalamet is, and Jason Momoa is also kind of like one of the lead warriors here for the family. You also have people like Harvey Bardem who comes in, Dave Bautista, and so it's amazing cast of people throughout. And it's considered Dune is considered also one of those properties that a lot of people consider unfilmable. Just like how much people say.
I think on a long time ago there was a list of unfilmable books. I think Watchmen was on there for the longest time, and so was this. And from what I've heard from people who have read the books, mostly it's because it's told from Paul Atreides' inner monologue for a majority of it, and two, because the book is so ridiculously detailed.
Yeah, it's a thick book, very very thick.
That shit is thick.
Yeah, Dusk, have you ever read the book of Dune?
I read it a long time ago.
Okay,
but I remember quite a bit.
Okay, so it'd be interesting to hear your kind of perspective on this and how you feel about it. Did anybody see the 1984 Dune film?
I didn't see David Lynch's Dune.
Okay.
I have seen David Lynch's Dune. I watched the miniseries made in 2004, I believe. And that was like a total 6 hours, and now I've seen this one at IMAX.
Okay. So I'd be interested to hear kind of also yours. So are you like a big fan of Dune and the Dune series?
I like science fiction. I saw the miniseries years ago, and I only recently, in anticipation for this, decided to rewatch the miniseries and see if it was as good as or at least decent from what I remembered. And it actually held up fairly well. When you get past the budget restraints, the miniseries is better than I expected. And the movie in 1984 has its problems. It's very David Lynch, and it's very clear there's studio interference, but it's very David Lynch. If you're not a fan of his stuff, then you're probably not gonna like it. It's not very Dune though, if you're looking for the nature of the movie, which is how we come to this one now.
Yeah, that movie is just David Lynch, being David Lynch.
Okay. So, with this film, which is clocks in 2 hours, 46 minutes, I would say, it's a gorgeous looking movie. Denis Villeneuve, he knows how to shoot a movie. And you look at his resume, you look at all his movies, especially like something like Blade Runner 2049, in something like Prisoners or Arrival. He knows how to shoot a movie. He knows how to make a shot and make it look absolutely gorgeous.
He knows how to set up a shot, and so does his director of photography, Greg Fraser, who was also the DP for Rogue One and is now also the DP for the Batman.
Yeah. So, it's definitely a gorgeous looking movie. And like for Dusk, I only saw it, at home. I didn't see it on the screen. So I do want to see it in IMAX and get the full experience. So Dusk, tell us what it was like for you to experience it in IMAX and everything.
The first IMAX movie I've watched in a long time, since I think Interstellar. I think that was the last one I watched in IMAX. And this one was a treat. Visually, the movie is gorgeous. Absolutely drop dead gorgeous. Cinematography is fantastic. Villeneuve knows how to do cinematography, knows how to set a scene. But if you do go to IMAX, I would recommend get some earplugs. Because the soundtrack on IMAX in particular is so loud in comparison that might be the IMAX experience. I don't know if you guys experience the same thing, but the audio mixing is a little awkward because sometimes characters will be whispering something, and then all of a sudden you'll hear a choir from unknown indigenous culture going ah.
The ancient lamentation music lady, Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's cool to see her getting more work.
Does anybody know the name of the person who did the music for this?
Hans Zimmer.
It was Hans Zimmer.
It was Hans Zimmer.
It's a big $200 million blockbuster. Of course, it's either going to be Hans Zimmer at this point.
Hans Zimmer or two other choices.
Hans Zimmer or Ludwig Göransson. He's another big guy. He's coming up. So it's pretty much typically
Greg Williams, perhaps, if you feel like it.
Yeah.
Michael Giacchino's another option.
Danny Elfman, you know what I mean, maybe.
Old school.
Yeah. Thank you, Express, by the way, for the 200 bits there, man. Thank you a lot for that. Appreciate you coming by. Appreciate you swinging by there, man. Thanks a lot for that, Express there. The music is definitely, it's blaring. It's bombastic, to say the least. I mean, that's kind of Hans Zimmer. That's what he was doing with his work with Christopher Nolan when he was doing Inception and various kind of other, Christopher Nolan films. It's kind of what Hans Zimmer is kind of known for. He's going to blare that music very much so.
But I think the audio mixing, it's better here than it is in Tenet because you can hear dialogue.
Yeah. When it comes to the performance of this, I think, everybody does a great job. I mean, you got a really kind of great cast of people. I think, like we just listed off all the great names. Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, they're coming up, even though Zendaya is barely in this film, but just to kind of mention her, because I know her character plays, if they do a part 2, her character is going to play a much bigger role.
Much more significant role.
Yeah, if they do a part 2, but I mean they're the new breed of kind of Hollywood actors like her and Zendaya. Her and Timothée Chalamet. Anna Taylor-Joy. They're the new crop of talented young actors that are kind of coming up right now that are kind of you're going to probably see for a long time. And Timothée Chalamet, you see kind of how great he is in his work. Things like he was in Lady Bird, for instance. What is another kind of film he was in? He was just in a
Call Me by Your Name was another fantastic performance from him. Beautiful Boy, Little Women, I think he's great in.
Yeah. He's kind of got that quality about him. Also, like something like Oscar Isaac, who's terrific. Rebecca Ferguson, who I love her. She's fantastic. Loved her in Doctor Sleep. Man, she played a great villain in Doctor Sleep. And she's also great in the Mission Impossible movie. She does great with the action stuff as well. She's super impressive to see. Oscar Isaac, people, know his work. I just reviewed a film of his that came out this year, The Card Counter, which was a brilliant film. Great, kind of one man show there from him. Jason Momoa, it uses Jason Momoa to his Jason Momoa effect, perfectly. Jason Momoa, when he's in something, he's gonna be Jason Momoa. But you love it. I mean,
it's like, whoa, my man.
Yeah, he's gonna be Jason Momoa. You gotta love that. So he's doing his thing. Josh Brolin. It's tough. Hearing that voice now, I just keep seeing his face just be purple. Just hearing his voice now, I just think just purple face now, just like Josh Brolin. So, I think this film delivers kind of great performances from everybody. Good, really solid. Also, kind of one of the big standouts, even though he's not in it all that much to me, was Stellan Skarsgård. I mean, his whole villain performance, and then his look and design, and the different kind of looks of everybody in the movie is also very interesting. And seeing like his character who looks like this cross between Jabba the Hutt and Hills Have Eyes, like kind of a cross between those two things a little bit. I thought was kind of cool to watch, and how his character kind of float and kind of things like that. I thought was very interesting. I very much appreciated. What did you all think about kind of the performances here in this film?
I think all the performances are pretty good. I think Chalamet, he does a good job at grounding something that, in the hands of a less capable actor, I think this would have been completely inaccessible. As do the rest of the cast here.
Okay. Dusk?
For the most part, everyone in a role does their role well. Rebecca Ferguson does a very good job of giving some good emotion with Lady Jessica and how she's trapped between her love for Duke Leto and her responsibilities as a Bene Gesserit and what she's done to her order because of her love for the Duke. And that also spills onto Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides, who plays closer to the book, where he's a younger Paul. Paul in the original book was, I think, 17 or 18 in the original. And he slowly, over years, he eventually, throughout the original book, grows into the leader that he later becomes, the character that you want him to be. So he's very unsure of himself. Although there are factors in this movie that they don't go into that actually are fairly important to the story and the book that is omitted. Paul is still... Timothy Chalamet does a fairly good job of showing those insecurities for that character and give a bit more emotion. Okay. Oscar Isaac is so good as Duke Leto that I wish I saw more. I just like seeing Oscar Isaac. He's just an underrated actor.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's got a lot of talent. Oscar Isaac, and definitely somebody who is has natural charisma and is very good. It just makes you think like, man, those Disney Star Wars movies, they wasted so many people.
100% in the world.
They wasted Daisy Ridley, who's talented and great. They wasted John Boyega. They wasted Oscar Isaac, Adam Driver. It's just like, man, you had such a great cast of actors, and that's what you did. It's like, what the fuck? But anyway, with this, very much so. Yeah, I think Oscar Isaac is really great kind of performance here as well. As the leader here, and so. What do you think, Dust, being the person who's read the book, who's watched David Lynch's version, who's watched like the miniseries, what do you kind of think of how well do they do at interpreting the material and making it accessible to people who are not familiar with Dune?
That's a bit tricky. Each one, now that I've seen all, are different interpretations of the same book. The book is very detailed, and it's why a lot of the costumes, a lot of the descriptions of the characters, regardless of where you go into, you can, just by looking at them, you can guess, oh, that's who that is. Oh, that's who that character is. Aside from a few in this movie, and aside from a few in the miniseries, due to costuming, you can go, all right, that's Dr. Yue. He looks very closer in this movie to the book description of his character. Whereas in the miniseries in 1984, they had their own interpretations of what Dr. Yui was supposed to look like. Same as Dr. Klein, who has completely changed genders for this movie, and ethnicity, whereas in the book a it was a gentleman, and although did have darker skin tone, it wasn't as that. But that's needless to say. The character is relatively similar, so it's just one of those things where like, oh, well, that's just a quick change. You're gonna have to get used to that. But the introduction of the character is relatively the same. So when they say Dr. Klein, okay, that's Dr. Klein.
You're talking about the character who plays Shannon, who's played by
Yes.
Shannon Duncan Brewster here.
Yes, and I'm merely just talking of those for if you're looking at all these different versions, and just at a glance, I can just guess who's who based on the characters and the descriptions. Just from those small changes, basically everything is very similar because of Frank Herbert's attention to detail.
Okay.
Compared to for this movie, the hardest thing for this movie for me was looking at it just for this movie. As someone who's never seen any of Dune, I've never seen anything of any other media of it. I think it does a serviceable enough job introducing you to the world. Specifically, it does a good job of showing Paul Atreides and his family's eventual fall. That I think Duiville does well. He did well in setting that up. But that's only half the story that Dune is trying to say. The story between Fremen and Paul Atreides is that's and of course his mother and the Bene Gesserit. That's half of the story. The other half is the Bene Gesserit, the Fremen's relationship, how the Bene Gesserit have manipulated the Fremen over many millennia to believing in specific prophecies that which they mentioned at some point. The AI wars that came before, which created mentats, where if you ever saw the guy, he had his eyes roll up for a second and he made that calculation. That's a mentat. They're basically human living computers. And they become like that through spice, which I think is this movie's unfortunately biggest weakness. There's so many details that are omitted from this that, especially the most important is, why is everyone fighting so hard for this spice? In this movie, that's a one question that you can ask, and you can get I don't know. They mentioned space travel, but we don't see how that works. Why would that matter? Because they just go to place.
Right.
And like, oh, as an audience who has no idea what it takes to get from one place to another in this universe, that's a really big thing in the Dune verse. And they're just like, I don't know, we didn't even get to a planet. That's not important. I'm like,
Nick.
kind of is.
So Nick, so you being somebody who isn't, hasn't read the book, hasn't seen the other versions of Dune, what do you think about the accessibility of it? Did you ever have trouble following what was going on?
Yeah, I don't think I ever had any trouble following what was going on. I think Villeneuve, he knows enough. He's a guy who knows how to show, not tell, and everything that I think we need to know about this world that he's setting up. It's all done in action, and it's a little bit exposition dump heavy, but it excuse me, it still worked for me. Yeah, I think the biggest problem I have with this movie is just the pacing of it, because this movie is like 2.5 hours long, and it's barely even like the first part of this story
Yeah.
that he's setting up. This is more like a 2.5 hour like bookmark to what will become Paul Atreides' story.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that shows the amount that is omitted. It then gives more credence of, well, you omitted all this actual important stuff, and then you're left over with the rest. And you kind of go, oh, well, what happened to all this if we're just going to take our sweet time getting here, getting to this point? It just feels like a prelude. and without filling these important details, I feel that does unfortunately take a lot out of it. There's a lot of political intrigue in the Dune movie, in the Dune series, that unfortunately is not really done here. They change some things here that I think make it worse for wear for that whole plot arc. That they kind of, there's a character that's omitted, although this is the first part of the book. He's a minor character in the first part of the book, but he does have more relevance later. So I'm a little torn. I was like, whether a layman's can come in and watch it, I think it's fine. If you have no idea about any of this extra stuff or how the Dune series is, and you just come in and watch the Dune series, I think this is a good introduction. However, if you are a fan of the Dune series, if you are a fan of the book series, just based on my cursory knowledge of those other miniseries and movies, you're going to be very disappointed for what they leave out and what they change.
So, being that person who is a layman, who is not familiar with any of the versions of Dune, haven't read the book, I think generally you're going to get the setup, right? I mean, if you've seen other sci-fi stuff, if you've seen science fiction, fantasy stuff before, okay, you have a person who is somewhat of the chosen one here, and Timothy Chalamet. You got this family who's this powerful family. And kind of ruling. So you get the kind of general setup and the general gist of it. When it comes into this resource of the spice and why people are fighting for it, you said that it's not as clear in the movie. I mean, I guess my interpretation was of it that it's just this valuable resource that can do all these special things, that can do so many things for so many people, that it just that's why people want it so bad. And this place, this planet, Arrakis being the main source of it, where they can mine it, seems like that generally is why people want to fight for it. So that's at least what I got from that, at least. In terms of because a lot of people have been saying about this movie pacing, it's kind of slow, it's boring, it's dull. I will say that there are moments where it is a little kind of slow during times, but it depends on you as a viewer and what what you can handle and what you can kind of take. You know what I mean? If you can kind of take longer films or not, if you can kind of pay attention or not. I was kind of invested all the way through of it. It didn't bore me at all. There's some slower paced moments, but I think that overall it was still, I think, paced kind of very well. And they throw in some decent action moments here. The stuff where they have this elements of, like, they have these shields. Kind of they have their own little personal, like, little bubbles. They get their own, like, little safe spaces that they personally kind of have there, where that you can kind of penetrate them. I thought that was kind of a cool aspect. That looked very good in it. And the fighting, I thought, was also very good. You have these moments where they're fighting each other with knives, especially, that look pretty good. Some good action scenes with, like, Jason Momoa. So he gets to show off, you know what I mean? That's why you kind of get a guy of his caliber to kind of come in and do stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of impressive. And just to kind of wake people up, in those scenes. And, and when the big sandworm, of course, comes, you know what I mean? It impresses. And, I only saw it at home, and I was very much impressed about it. Now imagine how it would be if you actually saw it in a theater IMAX screen, how that would have looked and how impressive that would have been. I thought was very exciting. Yeah, I mean, I liked this film quite a bit. I thought it was, very good. And I thought, it's not going to suffer from that much. I think when you had, like, for instance, like John Carter from Mars, when that came out, there were so many distinct connections, because it's just been so long since, and John Carter from Mars is also one of those OG sci-fi series that so many other things have cribbed from, that now when they finally did a John Carter type, try to do a big movie, it was like, oh yeah, this is so tired and plain that we've already kind of, it's already been there. But I think with Dune has such a, more rich mythology, that it's more interesting to kind of watch if you are a person who does get wrapped up in those type of things and wants to learn more about those things. And whether or not it's going to get a part 2 depends on the streaming, depends on how many people stream it, how many people view it. Depends on how successful it is on HBO Max. I think it's primarily what they're going with. Not so much, I don't think, theater performance. It's more the HBO Max performance. And I don't know. I think they really just should have maybe just shot it back to back. That would have been probably more feasible if they just did that instead of waiting to see it. Just shoot the thing back to back, and just do it like that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I think yeah, this is a good movie. Love the look of it. I'm gonna go see it in IMAX, so I can go see it in the big screen. I am was definitely I'm interested to see more what Zendaya does in the second movie. If given to see her play more of a significant role, I think at times some of the characters can appear stilted and a little kind of dry at moments, but I think still overall still very good performances. So me, I would give it a 8 out of 10 for me. What about everybody else?
Me, again, I agree with a lot of your. I think that the movie itself is stunning. The world building here is excellent. This world feels so much larger than we're given any indication of just following Paul's story. My biggest problem with the movie is that it's so incomplete and it's so dependent on a sequel that we have zero guarantee is actually going to happen. And for me, that's why the ending of this film it feels so hollow because this isn't really the ending. This is just like the bookends. This is like every franchise in the 2010s like promising was like, hey, to be continued at the very end
Yeah.
or end of chapter 1, which is one of my pet peeves with a franchise. If you don't know that you're getting a sequel, if you do not know, go out on your fucking shield and tell a complete story with your first part.
Okay, so Dusk. So, where do you think would have been a good point to leave off on in the first movie? Having been a person who's seen kind of all these different versions of Dune, what do you think would have been a good end point for it?
To end it on a satisfying note, I would have to rearrange some small scenes to make it a bigger emotional moment. But I think reaching the initial settlement, having them be this position in their life, getting it started, but I would have finished it with the ceremony of the trading of the water of an individual who passed away in this movie. He trades water for life, and it sets up the idea of who the Fremen are and his position in it. And I think the naming of Paul in this new commune and who that name and where that name comes from and what it means to the people would have been a perfect way to just kind of go, all right, his journey is like we'll end it there because this is a bigger story, but he's now part of the Fremen and this is where his path leads and where we go from here we may never see, but he's gonna be all right. And it wouldn't have been. It's literally would have been probably another 5 or 6 minutes. We would have gotten that. It was. I'm actually surprised they didn't do that part, which is how close it was.
Okay, yeah. So, what
But
rating?
that's what I would have ended.
Okay. What rating would you give it, Nick?
I would probably say this is a 7 out of 10. This is an incredible film to look at, and the performances from the actors are all spectacular. My only problem is that the story of this does feel so incomplete.
Yeah, yeah. I feel you on that one. I agree. Dusk.
Nick, I completely agree. Considering all the different things I've seen, taking it just as the movie in itself, things are even in the world itself. Even if I did know any extra stuff or any other details, it does feel just naturally incomplete, both in the way it ends and in some of the characters that we've kind of set up here for the long haul. It feels like there's parts of the story that have been piecemealed or taken away. Whether they're saving that for later to be discussed later, or he's rearranging it to then discuss it in a more digestible moment in another part that is yet to be made, I don't know. What I do know is Dune is a very long-lived sci-fi series. It has many different interpretations, and this movie is gorgeous. It has a fantastic casting. It has great costuming, great cinematography, but without those elements that ultimately hold it up. Is like Dune. I can't, and its uncompleteness. I can only give what I have at my hand. I don't have the complete work. So that being said, I have no choice but to give it a 7 out of 10. By itself, it's still a good product. It's still a good movie. It's a 7 out of 10. But there are flaws that keep it from going any higher.
Okay. Yeah, I see your point. Yeah, it's a movie that's very reliant on a second part, and if you don't have a second part, it just feels like why am I getting that invested in a story that I don't even know if it's gonna have a second part or not. So I understand that sentiment of it completely, and yeah, I agree with that. So hopefully it does get a second part. Hopefully they come back again. I think they maybe should just shot it back to back, but okay.
I think they should. From what I know, he even had Villeneuve created There's a 5 hour cut. So there are parts that I felt may be missing from this movie. He probably may have already actually filmed Lord of the Rings style. Probably got all of it, but there was a chopping block to get it down to a 2.5 hour movie, which, considering Dune's story, I completely understand.
Yeah.
But I would be, if anything else, I would be happy to see that director's cut. And I hope there's a sequel to this. There's a part 2 where it concludes the story of Paul Atreides and the House Atreides and finishes the novel off.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I'd be interested to see the director's cut as well. I have to watch the director's cut he did with Blade Runner 2049 because I did love that movie a lot, and I wanted to see the director's cut of that.
And that's slower paced. That's even slower.
I don't know. I think I think I don't know 2049. I think had I don't know. It felt like it was. I think it had more momentum for me a little bit. I guess.
I can see why you would say that, but I do feel like I think you forget that moment where he's just in the factory and he's just the camera holding on him, and we're like, "Go, please!" A great movie, though. I still love it. I
Oh
agree
yeah,
with you. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, 2049 is one of my favorite sci-fi films in the past 10 years or so. Very very great film.
One of the best sequels too.
Yeah, I love it. I love it even more than the original Blade Runner. Honestly. Yeah, that's all. It'd be funny to
Did
see.
you give your rating?
Yeah, I gave it 8 out of 10. I gave it 8 out of 10.
Okay, solid.
Yeah, it'd be funny if we saw that Dune director cut and it's just Timothy Chalamet waking up in cold sweats of just from Zendaya, just dreams. That's just most of the.
Fair enough.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. I mean,
Yeah, you know what I mean. We all been there. Just waking up just in cold sweats. Yeah. Dreaming about Zendaya and her eyelash commercials. Yeah.
Spice by Calvin Klein.
oh
Yeah.
my god, that's totally true.
Yeah. So tomorrow, people, we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be coming. We're gonna be streaming. I'm gonna be doing The Last Duel. I'm gonna be trying to be seeing that tomorrow. That's the movie with Matt Damon, Ben Affleck in it. So I'm gonna be trying to see if I can watch that tomorrow. As well as we're going to be coming with a TV series review. We're going to be doing Lock and Key. We're going to be doing that, which is a series on Netflix. The comic it's based on the highly popular comic from Joe Hill, who's the son of Stephen King. So we're going to be doing that. I've been meaning to check that out for a while. So since it's October, Halloween, get into watching some more horror stuff throughout the week. So we're going to be discussing that, as well as doing a movie review for The Strangers. That won the poll. So we're going to be doing The Strangers movie review for that Saturday. Yeah, so we're going to be coming to you people with that and everything like that. And also next week, what's coming out next week? Blanking, what's coming out?
Shit. Yeah, I got no idea.
Yeah, so I have to check back and see. But yeah, of course, just always check for us Fridays, Saturdays, 8 p.m., 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're gonna be here. We're gonna be streaming on Twitch, all that stuff like that. Dusk, you and me, we got to be streaming Thursday if you're available. Next Thursday, Wednesday. Try to do Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Try to do some backseat gaming. Dusk and me. So Dusk gonna kind of backseat game at me as I play Resident Evil.
I'll bring the guide and popcorn.
Yeah, so that'd be pretty awesome there. So check that out. We're gonna probably be streaming kind of those days on Wednesday, Thursday, as well. And also, I finally finished You as well. Finally finished that season.
Oh,
Season two.
nice.
Yeah, finally finished that. Binge that. Finished that. We did a review of it last week. I only was halfway through. Now I'm all the way through, so that was pretty good. So yeah, that was. I mean, I just couldn't help but laugh at that show. Not because it was terrible, but just because it's like, damn, these motherfuckers are crazy. They just are truly fucking crazy. I mean, Love, like Joe and Love is just like, wow. Yeah, goals. Yeah, for sure. For some people. So, yeah, that was kind of pretty great. So it's fun to watch that. Yeah. So we're gonna be getting out of here. Nick, where can people find you, man?
You can find me Twitter, Instagram at Night and Day Nick.
All right. So, if you want to contact Dusk, hey, you can always do that through the Afternoon Tune, right? So the social medias, we're on all of them. Instagram, Afternoon Tune, TikTok, Afternoon Tune. We put up clips from the show there. Check us out there, putting up kind of funny edits from the show. Check that out. Also, Twitter, Afternoon Tune. We're also on Facebook at the Afternoon Tune. We also can check us out on email us any comments, questions, anything like that at theafternoontune@gmail.com. We also, wherever you listen to podcasts, so we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you check us out on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave that good review, 5-star review if you can, detailed review that helps boost up the podcast. And we're also on Anchor, so if you want to check us out, just listening to us there, we're available. Of course, we're streaming also on Twitch, right? Twitch.tv/theafternoontune as well. And of course, we're also on YouTube. Check us out there as well. YouTube.com/theafternoontune as well there. And you can see us and enjoy us there. Like, subscribe. You know what to do, basically. If you are part of YouTube, you already know the good stuff already there. So, hey, make sure you do all that fun stuff. And, hey, to all you good people out there watching the show, listening, appreciate you. And don't forget to always stay tuned.
Stay
Stay tuned.